This video is sponsored by Squarespace. More about them later. I tried a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokémon Emerald using only Dark Type Pokémon, and with only 7 possible encounters, I'm gonna need to be extremely careful so that none of my Pokémon die, especially because I'll only have 3 Pokémon for the first 5 badges. My starter is Pride the Poochyena, and though he may not be the humblest member of the animal kingdom, he'll be a vital member of the team once he evolves. For now though, he's just my little fluffy boy. On Route 102, Pride and I embark on a needlessly long quest to catch the 1% encounter rate C-Dot. After several excruciating minutes, I welcome Gluttony, the bashful C-Dot, onto the team. And shifty though she may seem, our ravenous little nut is not a Dark-type Pokemon. But with a few levels, she evolves into Nuzleaf, the only Pokemon in the entire franchise to canonically have nipples. And since all animals with nipples can produce milk, it begs the question, does Nuzleaf milk count as dairy, or is it closer to a vegan alternative like almond milk? Forget the billion lions question, we need our most brilliant minds to be working on this question. Now, even though Gluttony has a Gen 1 caliber level up moveset, one of the few TMs I can pick up at this point in the game is Bullet Seed. So Gluttony mows down Roxanne's rock types with her grassy seed. Nosepass puts up a bit of a fight, especially with Roxanne's arsenal of healing items, but after a few turns, a massive 5 hits from Bullet Seed, including a clean final critical hit, knock out Nosepass, and win us the very first gym badge of the run. So it's off to Dewford Town, the calming sea breeze blowing in my hair as I enjoy the serenity of the open water. Not a worry in the world. Parents love calling at the most inconvenient times, don't they? I'm not sure why we had to stop a whole-ass boat just for me to take a phone call, but after that short detour, we make it to Dewford Town where the second gym leader awaits. First though, it's off to Granite Cave where I deliver a letter to Stephen Stone. That family is a mess. But while I'm here, I also catch Greed the Sableye, immediately an extremely important member of the team. Because thanks to her ghost typing, this gem-obsessed little goblin is completely immune to every single one of Brawly's Pokemon. Seriously, literally none of his fighting types can touch Greed at all. And with Nightshade to deal reliable damage, this fight is unlosable. So just like that, we've won the second gym badge. But before you brush off this challenge for being too easy, let's talk about the next gym leader, Watson. Arguably the most difficult gym leader in the entire franchise. Without a Marshtomp or a Geodude, his electric types are extremely powerful. Magneton with 120 special attack in the 3rd gym is actually insane. When you factor in the abysmal level up movesets of most Pokemon in Gen 3, the dearth of usable TMs and items available to the player at this point in the game, and the excessive amount of status conditions this battle is known for, Watson becomes an absolute nightmare for most Nuzlockes, especially ones where you only have 3 Pokemon. Now, I can even things up with some EV training, primarily to boost our special defense stats so that we can eat shockwaves a bit better. I killed so many Lotads. But even a single critical hit or some unlucky paralysis, and we're gonna be in a lot of trouble here. Watson leads with his speedy and explosive Voltorb. I lead with Gluttony to get off a priority fake out and to hopefully bait an immediate self-destruct as I switch to Greed. But sadly, they don't take the bait and instead go for a soft spark. After another fake out, Voltorb falls into the yellow. So Greed eats a shockwave and then takes the kill with a Nightshade. This levels up both Gluttony and Greed to level 25, which is fine since the level cap always ends at the start of the battle. Gluttony learns Torment and Greed learns Detect, which will both be useful a bit later. But for now, Electrike comes out second, so it's off to Pride, who is now an intimidating Mightyena. He shrugs off a Shockwave, and then we get into a Howling match with Electrike. Aw, look, they're communicating. After 2 Howls, I don't want to take any unnecessary damage from Electrike, so I start going for damage with Bite. Since Howl only boosts our attack and Bite is a special move in this game, it still takes 2 hits to get the KO. Rather frustratingly, Bite does still make contact, which activates Electrike's static ability and burns our held Cherry Berry. Thankfully, static only activates the 1 time though, so as Electrike falls and Magneton comes in 3rd, Pride is looking pretty healthy. And that's good because even at +2, Wimpydimp Rock Smash is not a 2-shot. So as Magneton hits us with a Thunder Thunder Wave, it's time to play everyone's favorite pastime, the RNG game. Magneton now outspeeds and nails Pride with a Sonic Boom, and then we get fully paralyzed. Bad start, Pride. Bad start. On the following turn, Magneton lands another Sonic Boom as a Rock Smash connects and leaves Magneton in the red, though frustratingly, for the second turn in a row, we did not get the 50% chance at a defense drop. Watson heals on the following turn, so Pride can land one last Rock Smash, which does get the defense drop, though now it's too little too late. Another Sonic Boom will take us out, so I gotta switch to Greed. Of course, now it's a Shockwave instead of a Sonic Boom, so we take a huge chunk of damage on the switch. I can nail Magneton with a Fake Out to bring them under 50%, but then on the following turn, Greed has to tank a Shockwave and fire off a Nightshade, which leaves Magneton with a painful, tiny, itty-bitty little sliver of HP. That means that Watson heals again. We can hit the bundle of magnets with another Nightshade, but now I gotta switch to Gluttony on another Shockwave so that Greed doesn't go down. Gluttony can land a free Fake Out, and then on the following turn, I see that Magneton is going for Sonic Boom, which means it should be free to go back into Greed. This then gives me a free Fake Out before I swap back into Gluttony on a resisted Shockwave. So slowly but surely, we're chipping away at Magneton with Fake Outs. In fact, it looks like just one more switch cycle will do it. So Greed comes in, but Watson's Menage a Trois goes for an unexpected Shockwave, killing Greed with a needless critical hit. Now, Gluttony can actually come in and take the KO on Magneton, and with a Thief Tech to steal Manectric's Citrus Berry for some free recovery, she gets surprisingly close to winning the entire battle. Of course, Manectric lands a critical hit Quick Attack to immediately snuff out that dream, but even if he didn't and we managed to eke out a win against Watson, moving forward without Greed is a waste of time, given that she is imperative to beating Norman down the line. So regardless, it's time for a reset. I got decently unlucky during that fight, but I also made a few sloppy plays, and there are definitely ways to handle that matchup better. Most notably, I should have howled for an extra turn against Electrike to ensure the 2-hit kill on Magneton. I also should have played better around Watson's Super Potion so that he didn't heal so many times. Yeah, that was a rookie mistake, Flygon. Pretty embarrassing. What are you even doing here, Garchomp FJ?
Why don't you ask yourself that, Flygon HG? I'm here because you put me here. I'm saying what I'm saying because you wrote the words for me. My existence is but a fractured slice of your own. I am but an offshoot of your own online persona, a manifestation of your inner thoughts you use to entertain your viewers. If I am anywhere, it is only because you want me to be.
This is for an ad segue, isn't it?
Yeah, it's for an ad segue.
This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is an online platform that helps you build and manage your own website, whether that's an online store for your business or a personal blog for your thoughts. If you've been a consistent viewer of the channel, you know that Squarespace has been a long-time sponsor, and it's because I truly believe that they are the best at what they do. With Squarespace's all-in-one platform and customizable templates, it's incredibly easy to create professional and polished websites. And with their new Fluid Engine design system featuring drag and drop technology, it's faster than ever before to fine-tune every single detail of your website. For example, I use Squarespace to create poppyhg.com, the only destination to find curated pictures of my corgi puppy Poppy, and recently named by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. I didn't even know that websites could be considered for Time magazine's most influential people list, but here we are. And it's all thanks to Squarespace, which has a ton of really useful features to get the most out of your website, like analytic information about the traffic of your website and Squarespace member areas, which can be used to connect with audiences and create exclusive members-only content. So if you're looking to start a website for your business or hobby, or corgi, then you should check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your website, you can use my custom link to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to the challenge. The good news is that, as you saw, it's trivial, albeit time-consuming and very annoying, to get all the way back to Mauville City in Attempt 2. Pride is now a docile female Mightyena, Gluttony remains a quiet supporter of the Free the Nipple campaign, and Greed is now a quirky gentleman, though he's still obsessed with hoarding material possessions. Once again, I lead with Gluttony into Watson's Voltorb. This honestly might not be the best use of resources, since Greed seems to be consistently eating a spark for basically no reason, but frankly, I'm just terrified of Voltorb going boom. Greed's fake out crits, which immediately forces Watson to waste one of his precious super potions. Unfortunately, with Voltorb back at full HP, Nightshade isn't enough for a 2-shot, so I decide to switch to Gluttony on another spark that paralyzes and wastes our held Cherry Berry. But as fake out takes the KO, I think we're already in a much better position than in attempt 1. Electrike comes out second again, so it's off to Pride for another round of parallel play. This time I go for 3 Howls before switching to Bite, which once again activates Static. 30% my ass. Once Electrike falls, Magneton comes out third, and now Rock Smash does what appears to be just about 50%. Which means that in addition to fighting through paralysis, we're probably gonna need to avoid a low roll. Flashes of the battle from attempt 1 come back to me in a blur. All that bloodshed, crimson clover. Are we doomed to repeat that great war, or will this time be different? Magneton fires off a nasty shockwave, and then Pride gets the KO with another Rock Smash. It looks like luck's on our side in attempt 2. As Manectric comes out last and goes for a Howl, I stay in to land a Rock Smash, which drops his defense. Then it's off to Gluttony on a pretty strong Shockwave. I don't bother going for Fake Out since that has a chance to activate Static. Instead, Gluttony tanks a Quick Attack and then steals Manectric's Citrus Berry with a Thief. This also activates Static, but at least we got a good chunk of HP back, which lets Gluttony comfortably eat another Quick Attack and hit Manectric with a Torment. Torment prevents Manectric from using the same move twice in a row, which is valuable because Shockwave is the only move he can use to hit Greed. So after Gluttony nails Manectric with another Thief, I bring in my closer. Unfortunately, Watson takes the chance to heal with a super potion, but with Torment in effect, Greed should have the upper hand here. A Fake Out causes a flinch and generously doesn't trigger Static. Then Manectric goes for Shockwave as we retaliate with a Nightshade to bring him into the yellow. And since Manectric now has to go for Thunder Wave, which we just shake off thanks to our held Cherry Berry, Greed is free to connect with another Nightshade to knock out Watson's final Pokemon, at long last winning us the 3rd gym badge. But as great as it is to defeat Watson, there's never been a more fitting time to use the metaphor of jumping out of the pan and into the fire. Because next up is Flannery, literally the Fire-type gym leader. And once again, without Marshtomp or Geodude, or the handful of other moderately good counters, this fight is a pretty big pain in the ass to plan for. Fortunately, you do get a lot more resources by this point in the game, including TMs like Secret Power, Return, and Dig. So at the very least, Pride isn't stuck with a 20 base power Rock Smash as her only physical attacking move. After eviscerating Maxie on top of Mount Chimney, it's time for the fiery showdown against Flannery. I've got a plan, but is it a good plan? That's for you to decide. Flannery leads with Numel and I lead with Pride. Thanks to my unconditional love and her cannibalistic diet of 100% Poochyena meat, a max attack EV'd Return gets a clean one-shot on Flannery's sad lumpy horse. This brings in Slugma, so it's time to get to work. I start by switching to Greed as Slugma sets up a light screen. The goal here is to get Slugma to use all 5 of her overheat power points. With Torment and Detect, I figured that it would be pretty easy and reasonably safe to do so, but Flannery refuses to comply, never going for overheat even a single time. Instead, she just repeatedly goes for resisted Smogs, and after Greed gets poisoned, I get fed up and bring in Pride on a baited heal. Of course, as soon as I start to set up with Howl, Slugma now immediately goes for overheat, which means I've got to hope that this little jerk doesn't land a critical hit before I get the necessary attack boosts needed to deal with the rest of Flannery's team. It's a little scary because we do need 5 Howls, but Flannery appears to have very little interest in actually doing damage to Pride. Instead, she sets up Sunny Day and Light Screen, goes for a weak Smog. I can't say I understand why, but the end result is that Pride is now fully boosted and able to one-shot Slugma with Dig. I mean, obviously, even completely unboosted, Dig still one-shots Slugma. A light breeze could kill Slugma. This Pokemon is an argument against Darwinism. Pride's boosts are for Flannery's Camerupt, and most notably for her Torkoal, whose tanky ass is always one of the hardest threats to play around in any Emerald Nuzlocke. But through the power of Howl and the unstoppable suckiness of Slugma, we've won the 4th gym badge, and the run remains completely deathless. So now I can head to the desert on Route 111 and spend way too long looking for a Cacnea. Not so fun fact, for some reason Cacnea has a 6% chance encounter rate in Emerald. Gen 3 was obsessed with making the most mediocre Pokemon extremely difficult to find. Hell yeah, love me that 2% Chimecho, 1% Voltbee, sign me up. Sloth the Serious Cacnea only becomes a Dark type when he evolves, which won't happen until the following level cap, so for now he's boxed, and the original 3 Sins are forced to face down against the 5th gym leader all by themselves. Fortunately, our greedy little devil can cheese the hell out of Norman's normal type punks. He leads with Spinda, who can't actually deal damage to Greed, but can still confuse with Teeter Dance. So to play around that, I simply switch back and forth between Greed and Gluttony, and spam Fake Out. This takes a little while since Spinda likes to use Teeter Dance even if my Pokemon is already confused, but every now and then he goes for Facade on Gluttony, granting me a clean switch into Greed. Norman even heals at one point, so we can nail his Dizzy Bear with a Toxic, and from there, it's all over. Gluttony ends up being out on the field as Spinda meets his poisonous demise, so that brings in Slacking second. And if you know anything about Sableye, you know that it's the perfect counter to Slacking. Detect by Level Up, Toxic by TM, and that's all you need to completely neuter the hulking ape. Even funnier though, I can also just switch back and forth between Greed and Gluttony again, making sure to switch on Slacking's loafing turns, and then clicking Fake Out on the turns that he has to attack. I actually kind of feel bad for the guy, he really never stood a chance. Vigoroth is the only other Pokemon that can touch Greed, so I switch to Pride, who lives up to his name and immediately nukes Vigoroth with a critical hit return. It's just brutal. I'm actually ashamed to be doing this to my own father. Linoon is last, but only knows 3 normal type moves and Belly Drum, so Greed can nail him with a Toxic, and then sit back and relax as the toxins slowly drain the life from Linoon's body until there's nothing left but a hollow, empty carcass. That's the 5th gym badge. And it also marks the end of arguably the hardest part of this playthrough, because now I can use Surf to get the Good Rod and fish up an Angry Coconut. And this Angry Coconut evolves into Wrath the Sharpedo, an unstoppable monster into the back half of Pokemon Emerald. It's a freaking massacre. Wrath unleashes her namesake onto anything and everything in her way. With Surf, Crunch, and Ice Beam, she makes quick and dirty work of Winona's flying types. It's like if a shark was released onto a coastal New England town and was allowed to feed completely unfettered. Holy crap, that's actually a great idea for a movie. Wrath also decimates Maxie's team in Magma Hideout. Mightyana's one-shot with Surf, Crobat manages to survive a single Ice Beam, but that's not really a big deal because... Whoa! That was a ton of damage. Like, a critical hit there, and Wrath just dies, so maybe we should slow things down a bit. Wrath does have a hasty nature, which makes her even more physically frail than the average Sharpedo, so that non-crit was a very generous warning from the game to tread lightly. And I got so swept up in Wrath's massacre that I neglected to mention that I also caught Lust the Corphish.
Corphish core! Corphish, Corphish!
You know, I think I could be a voice actor, but the world's definitely not ready for that yet. Oh, and I also caught Envy the adamant-natured Absol, so Pride is now pretty much completely outclassed. But don't feel too bad for her because she had some pretty phenomenal performances in the mid-game, and she'll always be my #1 girl. Well, after Poppy, obviously. As we go to face off against Tate and Liza, oh shoot, okay, I also forgot to mention that Sloth evolved into Cacturn and replaced Gluttony, who will be living out the rest of her shirtless life in the box. But now I think that's everything, and we can get to the battle against Tate and Liza, which, as you might have guessed, is pretty straightforward. Dark types tend to have a good matchup against Psychic types, and the duo of Wrath and Envy is strong enough to cull through their team without taking even a single tick of damage. damage. After taking out Archie's team, this time making sure not to risk Wrath to a critical hit against Crobat, all I gotta do is tattle to the green noodle to put an end to the most absurdly outmatched Vendetta of all time, and then I can face off against the final gym leader, Juan. He leads with an annoying little love disc, and I lead with Sloth, who despite his name is fairly speedy and can get off a growth before getting wooed by an attract. But that means that Sloth now has to do the unthinkable. He has to kill the thing he loves most or die trying. Either way, now Sloth's story can only end in tragedy. With the help of Leech Seed, he can stay healthy and mostly ignore Love Disc's water pulses. It takes a little bit of patience to set up a few more growths and make sure that Sloth isn't confused from a Sweet Kiss or a water pulse when he goes for the KO, but eventually we connect with a Giga Drain and Love Disc falls. Sloth then proceeds to take out Celio with a second Giga Drain, getting him back to full HP as Juan brings in his ace Kingdra third. I kinda goofed and assumed that Sloth would be faster, but you know what they say about assuming. It makes an ass out of you, and oh hey, we connected through double team and got the one shot. Nice, never punished. Well, with that, Giga Drain clears through the rest of Juan's team no problem, but that was really lucky because Kingdra also knows Ice Beam, and I'm certain a critical hit would have just killed us if that's what he went for. Regardless, that right there is the 8th and final gym badge, which means that we've made it to the Elite Four and the run remains deathless. All of the 7 deadly sins have made an appearance and not a single one of them has been defeated. Something metaphor for the human condition. Anyways, here's my final team, leveled up to the level cap of 55 to match Drake's Salamence. Gluttony's still sitting in the box, so it's up to these 6 to finish the challenge and make it to the Hall of Fame. Let's do it. Sydney is first and a total loser. I mean, look at this team. That's ridiculous. After a swords dance, Lust just starts reaping souls with Brick Break. He's a monster. The only thing that could stop him is himself. Now we kill him too. The whole thing is done in about 2 minutes. Easy peasy. And speaking of peasies that are easy, Phoebe is a textbook easy peasy. The easiest of the peasies, if you will. Her Dusclops always goes for Protect, so I always set up on his undead ass, and then Envy shadow balls her way to a damageless sweep over the second member of the Elite Four. But with that, now things get harder. Glacia and her ice types are an unstoppable— nah, just kidding. Lust sets up another swords dance and sweeps with Brick Break again. But Hail Chip means that we've actually taken damage now, so the stakes have never been higher. Drake is also technically set up a bubble since his Shelgon pretty much always goes for Protect as well, but I just lead with Wrath and start clicking the Dragon Killer button. His Kingdra does have the potential to be a skosh scary since we can't hit him for super effective damage. After taking a crunch, he opts to go for a Body Slam, which would have exactly killed if it crit, stupid hasty nature, but since it didn't, another crunch gets the KO, and then Wrath finishes up her sweep with 2 more Ice Beams to win us one of the easiest Elite Fours in recent memory. Normally, the Elite Four and Champion take up like half the script of the video, but we are absolutely flying through this endgame. Certainly, this fast pace and reckless play won't come back to haunt me, right? Well, if it does, it's gonna need to come quick because we're at the final challenge of the playthrough. The fight against Champion Wallace and his deceptively powerful mono water type team. Wallace leads with Wailord and I lead with Envy. The goal is to nail his big fish with a massive return to drastically reduce the power of his water spout. It works perfectly until Wailord still does over 50%, meaning that a crit would have immediately sent Envy to the eternal doghouse. But since she's still kicking, a second return takes out Wailord and brings in Tentacruel. This guy is a bit of an issue. I start first with a switch to Greed on a resisted Sludge Bomb, then I nail him with a Fake Out for some chip, before switching into Wrath on a Hydro Pump, which crits but leaves Wrath with 31 HP. So she can retaliate with an Earthquake, which thanks to the Fake Out chip is just enough for the one-shot. Side note, how can Sharpedo learn Earthquake, but Absol, the disaster Pokemon, cannot? Anyways, third is Wallace's Ludicolo. Easily one of my least favorite Pokemon of all time. This guy sucks. His typing makes him hard to take out quickly, and double team strats are extremely annoying to play against. I've actually lost runs to this gleeful idiot in the past, but this time I came prepared. Sloth comes in on a Surf, which does more damage than I would like, but if I know Wallace's Ludicolo, and at this point I do, I know that this Dillweed is gonna start spamming Double Team, which means that I can start spamming Growth. After 4, I go for a boosted Feint Attack, which never misses and renders Ludicolo's dumb double teams completely pointless. Wallace decides to also go on the offensive, but at this point it's too late. After a few heals, Sloth kills Ludicolo, I feel peace within my vengeful heart, and Wallace brings in my Lodic. But at +4 special attack, Sloth can now Giga Drain my Lodic for the one-shot and get back to full HP in the process. Wishcash obviously also goes down to a single Giga Drain. I wasn't certain about getting the one-shot on Wallace's final Pokemon Gyarados, but apparently even with the level advantage and a hardy special defense stat, our Miracle Seed boosted Giga Drain is enough to knock out Gyarados and win us not only the battle against Wallace, but the entire run completely deathless. The last few challenges have had some pretty stressful finales, so it's nice to have one that peaked early and let me relax a little in the late game. But cracking the mid-game, particularly the Watson fight, was still a lot of fun. I've never used Torment before, and up until this challenge, I didn't realize how useful it could be in certain matchups. It's really exciting for me to still be learning little tricks about these games, even after playing them for so long. And I do think that that's what the best monotype runs can do, even if they aren't always the hardest challenges in the world. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Or don't, I don't know. But regardless, stay tuned for more Nuzlocke videos, and until then, remember to always, always, always play around the critical hit.